If you think sleeping in separate rooms means the marriage is over, this story might change your mind forever. For 10 years, they slept apart, not because they hated each other, not because of betrayal, not even because they stopped caring, but because somewhere along the way, comfort replaced closeness, routine replaced romance, and silence replaced connection. And then one night happened. Robert and Elaine had been married for 42 years. They had raised 3 children, survived financial struggles, buried parents, celebrated weddings, and held each other through illnesses. From the outside, they looked like a strong, stable, long-lasting couple, the kind people admired. But what no one saw was what happened after the lights went out. It started small. Robert snored. Elaine was a light sleeper. At first, she would nudge him, then she would complain. Then she began moving to the guest room just for tonight. That one night slowly turned into weeks, then months, then years. At first it felt practical, mature, logical. We both sleep better this way, they told themselves, but something else quietly disappeared. The random midnight conversations, the soft touches before sleep, the accidental brushing of hands, the warmth of another body beside you, the feeling of being chosen again every single night. They stopped saying goodnight with meaning. They stopped reaching. They stopped trying. 10 years passed like that. They still ate dinner together. They still attended family gatherings. They still called each other hon in public. But in private, they were becoming roommates with shared memories. Elaine sometimes lay awake in her separate bed wondering, when did we stop being lovers? Robert, in his room, sometimes stared at the ceiling, thinking, does she even need me anymore? But neither of them said it out loud. Loneliness is quieter. As they aged into their late 60s, the emotional distance grew heavier than the physical space between their bedrooms. Retirement made it worse. There were no office distractions anymore, no busy schedules, just 2 people in the same house, living separate nights. Then came the night that changed everything. It wasn't dramatic. There was no accident, no affair, no shouting match. It was a power outage. A storm rolled in unexpectedly. Thunder shook the windows, the lights flickered, and then complete darkness. Elaine hated thunderstorms, always had. For a moment she lay frozen in her bed. The house felt unfamiliar in the dark. The silence between thunderclaps felt louder than usual. And without thinking, without pride, without analysis, without ego, she got up. She walked down the hallway she hadn't walked at night in years. She knocked softly on Robert's door. He opened it almost immediately. Another loud crack of thunder hit, and she said something she hadn't said in over a decade. Can I sleep in here tonight? He didn't hesitate. Of course. That night they lay side by side for the first time in 10 years. It felt awkward at first. Their bodies were older, their positions unfamiliar, the mattress slightly smaller than they remembered. But something else was there too. Memory. The thunder softened. The darkness felt warmer. At one point, Elaine reached for his hand, almost by instinct. He squeezed back. No grand speech, no dramatic apology, just skin touching skin. And in that quiet moment, something broke. Not the marriage, the distance. Robert whispered, I've missed this. Elaine felt tears slide down her face in the dark. Me too. That one sentence carried 10 years of unspoken loneliness. They talked that night, really talked, about aging, about fear, about how separate rooms slowly turned into separate emotions. About how neither of them wanted to admit they still needed each other. They didn't solve everything in one night, but they made one decision. They would try again. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. The next evening, instead of drifting to separate rooms automatically, they paused. It felt strange, almost vulnerable, but vulnerability was exactly what they had been missing. Sleeping in separate rooms didn't destroy their marriage. Silence almost did. Over the next weeks, they made small changes. They created a nighttime ritual. No phones after 9 p.m. 10 minutes of conversation before sleep. A goodnight kiss. Not out of habit, but intention. Some nights Robert still snored. Some nights Elaine still felt restless. But now they chose closeness over convenience. And that changed everything. Because intimacy isn't just physical. It's emotional availability. It's choosing to reach instead of retreat. It's admitting, even after 40 years, I still need you. Many older couples think distance is normal, that passion naturally dies, that sleeping apart is just practical aging. But sometimes, what feels practical is quietly protective. Protective of pride, protective of vulnerability, protective of admitting you still long for connection. The real question isn't whether couples sleep in the same bed. The real question is, are they emotionally in the same space? If you're in a long marriage and feel like roommates instead of partners, maybe it's not about grand gestures. Maybe it starts with one small walk down the hallway, one knock on the door, one honest sentence. I've missed this. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you of someone, or maybe even your own marriage, don't ignore that feeling. Love after 60 isn't about fireworks. It's about courage. If you believe long marriages deserve second chances, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope tonight. Because sometimes, one night really can change everything.